Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the Co-Star, the official newspaper of the Borough of Belmar, and the Asbury Park Press on December 19, 2018. A notice of this meeting was posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building.
Thank you, April. Can everybody join me in the flag salute? Salute the flag of our great nation. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I just have everybody remain standing for a moment of silence for our troops and all our emergency service workers? May they all come home safe. Thank you. Well, thank you for all coming out tonight. I'm glad that there's so many residents out here that are interested in all the town business. We're going to get right into our workshop, and the first thing that we're going to talk about, we got a letter from the Attorney General about the outfall pipe, and I want our Attorney Jerry Dasty to explain what took place with that letter and what issues we have with that.
Thank you. I think, Mayor. I think I'm starting to become the Grim Reaper because I don't seem to have too much good news here. The borough received a letter about 2 weeks ago from the Attorney General's office. The borough had received a grant from the DEP to extend a stormwater management line through Lake Como out to the ocean, I think it was. And part of that was to reimburse, what part of that grant, it reimburses for what we call soft costs, which are the engineering fees, to design it, to oversee it, to maintain, close it out, the project, that kind of thing. We've been advised by the Attorney General's office that there will not be a reimbursement to the borough for the fees to Mazer Consulting, which are in excess of $600,000. And the reason being because the manner in which Mazer was appointed to undertake this job is in violation of state statutes. There is a bidding procedure, if you will, for professional appointments like that. And the Attorney General, not the DEP, the Attorney General's office has sent us a letter saying the manner in which Mazer was appointed to do this job violates the state statutes, and therefore the borough will not be reimbursed this money, a good deal of which we've already paid in anticipation of the grant. I don't think I've shared it with the mayor or the administrator or the council. Mazer wants even more money. They want to make a claim for approximately $200,000 of more money for change orders. This is something we're going to discuss in closed session tonight because of obvious potential litigation. And we'll try to get some direction from the mayor and council as to where to go from here. We're going to try to arrange for a meeting with the Deputy Attorney General who authored the letter and try to see if we can try to address this and try to make amends. But at this point, the position of the state's attorney is that we're not going to reimburse those funds because of the manner in which the prior administration appointed Mazer to do this work.
Any of the council members have any questions for Mr. Dasty?
Mr. Dasty, do you see any avenue with the state? Did you get any sense that if we did the correct mea culpa, we might be able to get some of that money back?
I can only say I was surprised, and the letter is public knowledge. I mean, it certainly is disclosable to the public in the future. I've never seen a letter from an Attorney General's office that says, once again,
right, I read that.
So it's not like, I get the impression the Attorney General's office is going to say, you were told about this, you were pre-warned about this, and Councilman, I don't know. Okay. Hope springs eternal, but we're going to have to go walking to Trenton on our knees, I think, to try to get this.
Well, if you need any company, I'll go with you.
So.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Dasty. The next thing on our workshop agenda is the beach badge fees, which are on for tonight. I know that as everyone is well aware that we are raising them, the season badges, the daily badges, and senior badges are going to be raised. Now, looking through our state statutes that really govern this over our ordinances, we had the attorneys take a look, and if we lowered the age for beach badges, they would the kids, and we were looking at them lower for 12 years old, but we're going to reduce the rates. State statute's very clear that if we did that, we would have to charge full price. And speaking with everyone, I don't think that we really want to charge 12-year-olds the full price. So we're going to eliminate the teen badges tonight. And the other thing that the state statute really points out is that seniors are 65 and older. We had the ordinance that read 62, but we want to keep everything within the limits of the law. So it's going to be 65 for the senior badges, and our military, active Gold Star families, and retired vets will have still free access to the beach. So I just wanted to bring that up before we vote on this tonight. And if any of the council members have any discussion on it, I'd like to hear from them. Everybody's good? Okay. Now we'll move on to the Seafood Festival. That's on for tonight also. As a lot of people have already read in the papers, we are moving that to Main Street, Belmar Plaza area. There are a few different reasons why we're doing that. In years past, the closing of Ocean Avenue caused all kind of traffic problems. The Seafood Festival itself, using all the manpower to close off all the streets around it. We think that it's containable more towards that area. We don't need as many police officers to close it off. And with the train coming in right into the plaza and the distance to the marina, I think it would alleviate a lot of problems for us. So there was a lot of discussion with the business partners, tourism, chief of police, everybody that was involved. We didn't make this decision lightly, but we are moving it to Main Street for this year. So I just wanted to bring it up before we vote on anything. DPW was deeply involved in it also, so that we have everybody on board and everybody gave their input, but I think that's the way we're going to go for this year. So if any council members have any discussions on it?
Yeah, and I have some questions. Some people. I'm used to that. Some people had asked me about the liquor tent. I know we had spoken about it when it was up at the beach. Would there be a wine and beer tent?
Right now, no, but we're going to be talking to 10th Avenue Burrito and some of the people that hold liquor licenses up there, because we're not sure of the liability issues of having the beer and wine tent. So I would much rather have one of the liquor license establishments up in that area handle the beer and wine tent, so that there's no effect on the barrel if anything happens.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say, Mr. Mayor, I think 10th Avenue Burrito handled the beer area at the Fall Festival, and based on the success with that, I was very comfortable with the way they did that. I was also very impressed with the way the Fall Festival used the parking lot area and used the plaza area, and I think this move will, I mean, there are definitely some things to be worked out, but I also think that the way it's being handled is flexible enough. There is enough options as far as putting vendors in. If we need more space, we know where we're going to get it. And I think overall, it's going to be a really good move, and I think people are going to be very happy with the result.
Yes, some people don't like change, but I think this change should work out well, and it'll alleviate a lot of the problems that we have down at the beachfront. So. If anybody else doesn't have any other questions, we'll move on. The next thing on our workshop is, I'm sure everybody sees the Director of Special Operations that we are creating as a new position in the borough. And a lot of people come up to me and ask me that, are we hiring somebody new? What we're doing in this position, it's already somebody that is here in code enforcement. Frank Sinelli is going to be placed in that position, and what we're doing is we're going to combine a lot of services into that position. One of the things that we're going to, he's going to still continue with code enforcement and supplement that, and during the summer months, we're going to need him in that position. He is going to take the coordinator of emergency management, so that if we do have a serious situation where we need our coordinator in as emergency management, he is there and he will take that responsibility. The other responsibilities that you're going to take is with tourism and the business partners, because we have cut ties with Sparks Marketing. So he's going to take some of that responsibilities on, and the first thing, his responsibility that he's working on right now is updating our websites, our social media, and he is going to be coordinating that effort. Not that he's going to be doing it, but it's one of these positions that we're going to combine a lot of things, and with the cutting ties of Sparks Marketing, we're going to put him in that position. So I know there was a lot of discussion. A lot of people, when it first came out, gave me a call, and I had to explain it to them, but I want to make sure that I make it clear tonight that it's not a brand new position. We're just combining a lot, and with getting rid of Sparks Marketing, we will save a lot of money. So if any of the council members have any questions on that.
I just want to say I think it's a great idea. One of the things that has been an issue since the other Brennan was Borough Council President has been the lack of coordination and lack of communication between tourism, between the BVP. And I think having one person to actually oversee all that, at least to provide some cohesion and coordination and communication, I think that's really what we want to see happen. I think, again, this is another thing where I think people will be very happy with the result, and I think it's long overdue.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's long overdue. So those are the three things we had the discussion workshop. One thing that's not on there that I would like Mr. Schlager just to touch on. We did a lot of work on putting together our all of our employees that are not classified. And if you see on the agenda tonight, there were many that were in these positions that were not listed in the ordinance. So if Mr. Schlager could just explain, because we put a lot of time into that, and it is on the agenda for tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. Every municipality is required annually to submit and adopt a salary ordinance. Borough of Belmar has not had one since 2015. When we went through to establish the 2019 ordinance, we noticed that there were positions that were no longer here, positions that were here and getting paid that were not on the list. There were people who were getting stipends that we didn't know what the stipend was for. So we spent about 200 man hours between myself, our CFO, and business administrator, going through every type, looking at the salaries that have already been paid for this year, or being paid, and coordinating the salary ranges and the stipends to go with each of those positions. So the document that is being presented tonight clearly reflects and accurately reflects not only the positions held in the borough of Belmar, but the salary ranges that those individuals fall between.
Thank you, Mr. Schlager. Any of the council have any questions about that? It was a lot of work, and I thank Mr. Schlager and everybody that was involved putting all that together, because it really needed to be updated. I don't think there was a salary ordinance since 2015.
2015.
And that's something that has to be done every year. All right, if anybody doesn't have any questions on the workshop, we'll move on to petitions. Anyone in the audience want to come forward with any type of petitions? All right, seeing none, we'll go to the approval of minutes. April?
I have a motion to approve the January 15, 2019 minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, Councilman Wong?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Mayor Walshburg?
Yes.
Councilman McCracken?
Yes.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
All right, moving on to reports of council. Councilman Carvelli.
Yeah, I have a couple of things. First, I guess I just wanted to update on the pole replacement down Main Street. Looks like they're up to about 9th Ave and looks like they're about halfway done. I actually did not get an opportunity to speak with Frank Sinelli about what the actual timeline is, but looks like they're making good progress there. Last week, my neighbor came up and was asking about the recycling, and it gets into the weeds pretty quick about what you can and can't recycle, and it is confusing. So I did some digging, and you can really make a mess of the recycling. I don't know, maybe Tom knows a little bit more about this, but you can't recycle plastic bottle caps, certain caps like that. So I actually have a link that I'm going to ask to be posted on the borough website that just details what's recyclable in Monmouth County. I think all of this has been mailed to everybody at some point, but it's good to just be aware of what you can and can't put in recycle.
Yeah.
I'm eager to get to work on the website. I have a meeting with Frank tomorrow about that, and I'm hoping that I can facilitate there. And then I do have my first ADA meeting to participate in towards the end of the month. That was my report.
Very good. Our DPW director, Mike Campbell, is the guru on recycling.
Yeah. Chime in, please.
Yesterday, we did receive a mailing from the county on recyclables and what is allowed and isn't.
Yeah.
We made 250 copies until we can get them out to people. We put them at our recycling, so when you go into recycling now, he does hand them out.
Okay.
As of yesterday, we just received them yesterday morning. But we did 250 flyers yesterday. So again, if anybody's interested and wants to stop by recycling, they can get that out. And I will be meeting with Mr. Kirschenbaum to see how we're going to get them out, either in the water or whenever the next building is, whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah,
The link is
that-
also a great idea.
That little triangle on the bottom, that doesn't necessarily mean put it in the recycle. And that's the number I think of this number. Yeah, but it's the number, and then sometimes it's the number, but it's not. It's the number, but if it's a certain shaped bottle, it doesn't.
It's not black and white.
It's not black by any means. So, yeah. So I'll send that. I'll get that link over to.
Thank you. Councilman McCracken.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I attended my first meeting last night of the Belmar Housing Authority, a dedicated group of volunteers who are keeping our seniors safe and warm with the polar vortex that was here last week. Even on the 6th floor, temperatures of the radiators were measured at 180 degrees, which was consistent with the rest of the building, which is nice. So I'm looking forward to continue to working with that group. They have a hot water heater that needs to be replaced, that they have money in reserves for, and everyone is certainly pleased that the government shutdown is over and HUD money is flowing into folks like that. Our first meeting of 2019, a Shade Tree Commission, will be on February 27th at 6 p.m. at the Belmar Library. We've got a new group of folks who are appointed to that commission who are interested to learn more about what that group does and make our town look beautiful. And the last thing, and I mentioned this at the last meeting, in communication with our EMS captain, Fran Hines. They are looking to schedule a meeting with the borough regarding their budget to make sure that they can continue to provide services to our residents moving forward. The mayor and I have spoke to that, and a meeting will be scheduled coming up.
Thank you. Councilwoman Wong.
Good evening, everyone. I guess I'm the newbie on the council who's never really been involved in municipal government before, and I'm very excited. I've been going to meetings of the different committees. I'm on the planning board and went to my first class. I intend to go on to state class, so which is very exciting. And I do come from a background, my family were all builders, so I have a little input there. That was very exciting. Tomorrow, Mark and I meet with the Council of Churches. That should be very interesting. I look forward to that. My first ADA meeting is at the end of the month also. Talking to Jean, we have some things cooking, nothing etched in stone yet. We're working on it for the beach. And I'm very excited. I'm looking forward to talking to everybody whenever we can and doing the best job I can for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Council President Brad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended the first Tourism Commission meeting of the year on January 23rd. Don Tarrant from Eastern Lines was elected chair, and Danny White from Beach Music was elected vice chair. The two main topics of conversation were the Seafood Festival move, what's going to be involved. That's one of the reasons I'm so optimistic. The way they are planning it, they're leaving it flexible enough so that if they need to make any adjustments, it's definitely going to be doable. And they're way ahead of the curve as far as that planning. So it definitely, I'm thinking it's going to turn out to be pretty good. I mean, will it be perfect? Probably not. Anytime you do something new, there's always some bumps, but in general, I think it's going to be an improvement. I mean, I loved having it at the beach, but basically the festival had outgrown the site. And even though we did move the date to limit the crowd, it still was a problem down there, especially if it's a nice day. So having it on Main Street, bringing everybody to Main Street, I think that's really the way to go. The other topic of conversation was all the trade shows that Mary Brabazon is attending, representing tourism. I knew she went, but I didn't realize she went to so many. And they're all, actually some very interesting ones. They're all tied in. There's a boat show, but there's others that are just tied in with outside recreation activities. There's a big show that she's going to, I think she went to already in Harrisburg. It's sponsored by the NRA. It's for hunters and people who want to go out. But they do go to the beach. They are interested in water sports and activities like that with the marina. And there's one that I'm actually going to go to that's in Suffern. That's an outdoor show for people who hunt and also for people who hike and camp, and that would be me. So it was a very productive meeting, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Also, I attended 2 workshops for municipal elected officials, one from the League of Municipalities, and the one this past Saturday that was presented by the Multnomah County Freeholders and the county clerk. Freeholder Arnone was there, Ms. Hanlon was there. They covered a lot of topics, ethics, open, Oprah, all kinds of things that I had heard about, but it was good to hear more in detail about how that kind of thing works. One of the things that really caught my eye, the county one, at the end was the discussion of county shared services. And the county's idea of shared services is, you tell us what you want and we'll do it as written, which definitely caught my ear. That was the sense of what they were saying. So I have a brochure that they handed out. It's last year's brochure. It doesn't include some of the new services they're offering, including data backup and document storage. I think we should take a look at that, see if there's anything that we can take advantage of. Like I said, they're like, yeah, tell us what you want and we'll do it, and that's your shared service. That's fine. All right, and thanks. That's it for me.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, and we will be taking advantage of some of those shared services, there's no doubt. My report, just before I start my report, I just want to let Business Administrator Kirschenbaum just explain a little bit about the person we're bringing on board, Robert Ferguson. He's coming on board with us basically as a volunteer, and could just share with the public what that's going to be about.
Thank you, Mayor. Bob Ferguson had contacted me. He's a retired captain from the state police. After that career, he worked in the Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office. In the state police, he worked in human resources and handled all their SOPs, standard operating procedures, special operation reports, guidelines, policies, and procedures. When he went to the prosecutor's office, he worked in the forensics unit, Homeland Security, and also handled the administrative duties in his later part of his time in the Monmouth County Prosecutor's Office. He reached out for me when I became borough administrator, wanted to volunteer. I offered him $1 a year, which he accepted. He's going to take time a couple of days a week, review all the policies and procedures that the borough has in place now, try to get them into the year 2019. Some have not been updated for some time. And also do research on better ways for us to govern and run the borough in regards to scheduling, the way we schedule our personnel throughout the year. We still use Excel spreadsheets. We still use white cards instead of computerized documentation to better manage the borough. So you can imagine coming in, we're only here maybe 36 days, whatever it's been, and there's a lot of things that we're finding out. He is an added set of eyes that can research and update our policies and procedures. He has the background, he has the knowledge, and he's only costing us $1 a year. So I think it's a plus for the borough, and we're going to welcome him aboard, and that's what that resolution is all about. All he wants to do is volunteer and help out.
Thank you, Mrs. Administrator. Yeah, we're going to welcome him aboard. Definitely the price is right, so and he will be a big help. Just in my report, since our last meeting, there's been like a whirlwind of things going on, but we've been working with our engineer Peter Avakian on looking at, especially the 10th Avenue Pavilion. I want that buttoned up and operational, and by Memorial Day weekend, that is one of our big focuses, so he is working on that. The other thing that we're looking at, this building here, we have 9 heating and air conditioning units on the roof. 2 of them are non-functional. They're about 24,000 a piece. We're looking at the different sections of the roof. When it rains, the water just pours in here. So those are the things that are going to be very important for us to get done. I know that we all would like to look for a new Borough Hall, but before that happens, we'll be at least in here for about 5 years. So these things have to be done. Our employees cannot be getting dripped on when it's raining, and they deserve heat and air conditioning. So some of those things that we're really working on very vigorously, because I want, well, especially the 10th Avenue Pavilion, that is, there's things down there that just shouldn't have happened. But looking forward, no matter what we have to do, we have to get that done, and getting a couple things in place so that our borough employees come to work and they don't have to put up with those inefficiencies. So basically, I'm not going to get into a lot of other things because we brought it up through the workshop, and that's my report. So we're going to move on to public session on any of the resolution items. All right, seeing none. April?
Do we have a motion to close the public session?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay, on to the consent agenda.
Next, can I have a motion to approve the resolutions listed on the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second? Okay, Councilwoman Vaughn?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Mayor Walsberg?
Yes.
Councilman McCracken?
Yes.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Okay, we have to go into closed session for a few minutes, just to talk about a few personnel items. So, do we have, Mr. Daffy, or you have it?
I have it.
Okay.
We have a resolution authorizing executive session, whereas Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas there was adequate notice to the public of this meeting, And whereas the Borough Council is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, now therefore be it resolved by the Borough Council as follows: the public shall be excluded from discussion and action upon the hereinafter specified subject matter, the general nature of matters and pending litigation, specifically lifeguards, the Mazer and Lake Como outfall pipe, and the liquor license transfer application. Minutes will be kept of the closed session. It is anticipated at this time that the subject matter will be made public when the need for confidentiality no longer exists, and this resolution shall take effect immediately. Do I have a motion to approve that?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Yeah.
Well, there was an issue earlier, and I can speak with the attorney for the employee. We're not going to be discussing anything that came up in that rice notice in closed session. So that will not be discussed at all this evening in closed session. Oh, I'm sorry. Anybody hear me? I apologize. We're not going to be discussing, we will not discuss in closed session the issue of the rice notice. That was the subject of a letter from me the other day, just in case any employee or his attorney has any concerns about that.
Okay, so Councilman Wong? Yes. Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Mayor Walsberg?
Yes.
Councilman McCracken?
Yes.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
All right, we'll be back as quick as possible, and there will be action taken after this closed session.
Next we have Resolution 2019-58, a resolution authorizing a person-to-person and place-to-place transfer of seasonal retail consumption license belonging to SLVD Associates being transferred to 1000 Main Liquor License LLC. Do we have a motion to approve?
So before we make the motion, I want to make sure, because I'm a professional musician, I have a business relationship with some of the licensed establishments in town. I desire to avoid any sense of impropriety. I'm going to recuse myself from any and all liquor license actions.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Councilman Wong?
Yes.
Mayor Walsberg?
Yes.
Councilman McCracken?
Yes.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Next we have Resolution 2019-59, a resolution of the council to accept and approve the settlement agreement to resolve the litigation in the matter of Ray Elms et al. Versus the Borough of Belmar. And do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Councilman Wong? Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Mayor Walsberg?
Yes.
Councilman McCracken?
Yes.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Okay, next we have Resolution 2019-60, a resolution authorizing the hiring of a 2019 Chief of the Lifeguards. Do we have a motion to approve?
Yes.
Do we have a
Second. Second.
Okay. Councilman Wong?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Aye.
Mayor Walsberg?
Yes.
Councilman McCracken?
Yes.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
These aren't all relatives of yours, are they?
I pay a lot of money for the home. And Councilman Schlegel, I want to thank you all for this opportunity, something I take very seriously, and I appreciate your confidence in me to run the beach patrol. And I pledge to you, with the help of everyone in this room, that we will make our beach the safest it can be, and do a good job and bring back the pride and tradition of the Belmar Beach Patrol. I want to thank you for that. Coming over here driving, I was trying to think of some things to say. And one of the things I was going to say is that my immediate family couldn't be here because they're all out of state. And then 5 minutes before 6, my daughter Paige walked in. I love you. She came in, and that was just the great surprise. Now I can't think of what I was going to say, but it really threw me for a loop. But with my extended family and my friends that are here, the lifeguard community, the surfing community, and most importantly, the Belmar community, I really want to thank you for putting your faith in me, and I will be there and do the best I can. Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to ordinances.
Next, we have the public hearing on ordinance 2019-01, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 3 of the revised general ordinances pertaining to the Tourism Commission. If anyone has a public comment on this ordinance, please step forward, state your name and address.
All right, seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public portion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I'll make a motion to move that ordinance.
Second.
Councilman Vaughn? Councilman Reddick?
Yes.
Mayor Walsifer?
Yes.
Councilman McCracken?
Yes.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Next is the ordinance 2019-02, ordinance amending and supplementing the Borough Code, Chapter 18 regarding beach badge fees. If anyone from the public has a comment or question, please step forward, state your name and address.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Steve Lemoyne, 403 C Street in Belmont. Just a couple of things I noticed that was different as compared to last council meeting, right? I think it was discussed earlier. But it appears, one, that we've changed the ages of daily beach badge for children up to age 16 and above.
Correct, we're leaving it where it was.
Where it was and everything. What's our neighboring towns doing?
Well, they have a discounted fee for teen badges, but now looking at, our attorneys took a look at the state law since we were doing all this, and the state law supersedes our ordinance, which we are not allowed to do. So if we move the beach badge age to 12, we have to charge the full amount. So we didn't think that it would be right to charge a 12-year-old the full amount. So what we were going to do is we're going to leave it in place the way it is. We're going to talk to our legislators to see if we can get some leeway on that state law for next year. And we'll take a look at it, because even daily badge for that teen, we were looking to help the beach badge takers down there so that it would, they would, all the people that are 20 years old say that they're 15 years old, you know, they have no way of checking their ID. So we were trying to straighten that out, but what we're going to do for next year is we're going to go to our legislatures, we're going to see if they can change the state law for us and add that amendment to it so that we can charge less for teenager, like a couple bucks, just so that they have a badge, and you know, it helps out our badge takers down there, so that they know it takes the burden off of them.
Okay, but our beach fund is hurting for money.
Yes.
Okay, right. And will the 120K lawsuit settlement come out of the beach fund?
Yes, it will.
Okay, right. Now, it seems also that the burden of the beach fund being financially a burden right now is that the seniors badge went up 100%. I wish my Social Security went up 100%. Okay, but you tacked on 100%. You know, I think that's a little excessive.
We did. We thought the $15 was a little excessively low. So, and taking a look at it, you know, we didn't think $30 for a season beach badge for seniors was way out of line compared to all the other towns. Okay. Most of the other towns are 40 and 50.
In the past, though, there's been like a $5 increase a year. You've gradually done it, right? This just seems like, okay, the burden is being placed on the seniors for this thing. Right?
Over the years, if we actually took a good, seriously look at how the beach was operating and the things that were happening, and it went up gradually, I agree with you. But our administration coming in found basically zero down there. And we're starting out really less than zero this year because of the lawsuit that we had to, settle.
Fight the bullet.
On the 10th Avenue freeze out. We've lost the income from exit 98. So, and we have $0 to fix that 10th Avenue Pavilion, which has to be done. It has to be done. The water's pouring in it, it's getting ruined every time it rains, and that is my first priority, to get that building straightened out.
Who's paying for the 10th Avenue Pavilions? Extra cost now to fix it?
Well, first of all, we're going to take it out of the beach utility because we can, and then we're going to look at who is responsible for building that building. We can't get into any type of litigation or anything like that to figure out who was responsible for all the problems that we have down there. Because if we got into litigation, we wouldn't get it fixed for 3 years, and it'd be just, the building would be ruined, because you can't even believe the amount of water that is coming in that building every time it rains. So first of all, we have to use some of those funds to take care of that building right away.
Okay, thank you. Just one more thing on item E. When it talks about the veterans and everything, is it veterans, or are they active military, or you have to be a disabled veteran, right? I've heard different stories about, can honorable discharge veterans be counted as part of this group?
What we've put in place is whatever the federal law states, so that we're meeting state and federal law on how that can be done. I know it's Gold Star families, active military families, so I think our attorneys could explain it a little bit more in detail.
The language that's there is what the statute says, okay? Part of the statute says that the determination of some of the areas that you're referencing is determined by the military. And the military tells the state, the federal government, the military branch, tells the state what should be included in there. So we have to go with what the federal government and then the state government tells us. And right now, the statute, as it's currently written for this state, is what you see before you.
And that excludes veterans, other than if you're disabled?
It's other than what's set forth right there.
An attorney. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else on this ordinance?
Bruce DeGaglia, 201 9th Avenue. Obviously, the way you commented about 20-year-olds getting on the beach, trying to get on the beach, you are aware of it. Is there any way for beach badge checkers to, is there a student ID or something that they can make? Because they do get out of cars and go up and go on the beach, and there are no 15-year-old licenses as far as I know.
We have our beach director here, Mr. Gene Corey, and we are discussing different options, whether we do wristbands or something like that for the kids so that it is easier. But, you know, it's one of those difficult situations. We are going to be working with our legislatures to try to get this straightened out for next year so that we can make sure that the younger people have beach badges and they have to wear them.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes, in the back.
Good evening, Gene Kramer, 4th Avenue. Comment on, by the way, I did print out and review the proposed ordinance 2019-02, and I appreciate that the borough attorney checked Title 40 of state statutes. I did see some changes. Thank you. Let's see, Section 1, Item B. Can you please delete the word citizen?
Did you say
delete the word citizen? Jackson? Let me get the ordinance.
I think it's good enough alone that it says senior. Citizen, nobody's going to establish citizenship down by that.
Well, senior citizen is sort of a working name of art. Thank you, I'm sorry. Send the other file. Which section are you on, sir?
Okay, section 1, item B.
It says senior citizen season badges.
Correct. Delete the word citizen.
Well, it's up to the council. It seems to me that's a word, it's a name we're all familiar with. Nobody's trying to say non-citizen, it's just senior citizens.
Yeah, but the legislature uses a term of people over a certain age, not citizen. Hey, I'm just making a recommendation.
You say tomato, I say, yeah.
Okay, I don't think it's our place to establish citizenship here.
Oh, that wasn't the purpose.
Okay, it would just be easier to just say senior. I understand it's nitpicking, but I guess what we all want to make sure that we don't do is create a target for somebody in the legislature from a county in North Jersey that feels that the beach should be free for everybody. So this setting of beach fees should be defensible from all angles. The other one, under section 1, item D, disabled individuals. This has been around for years. In fact, probably back to the early 1970s, that this access to the beach by disabled people who meet the criteria for disability benefits under Title I of the Federal Social Security Act. Likewise, nobody down at the beachfront is going to establish whether somebody is collecting Social Security benefits. And the other thing that this was actually has been replaced mostly by the Americans with Disabilities Act in 1990. That was signed by President Bush Sr. Okay, and the borough has made a wonderful effort and investment in complying with the Americans with Disabilities Act to make the beach accessible to those people that have disabilities. Unfortunately here, and somebody I'm sure knows more about this than me, these disability criteria for the Social Security Administration probably goes far beyond physical disability, including emotional disability, mental illness, everything else. I think quite truthfully, the town's commitment to the Americans with Disability Act goes a long way of fulfilling any requirements that the town has in accommodating people that have disabilities.
I'm not sure what you're saying about the language in that section, though. That comes right out of the statute.
I understand it does. And it's been in there for years.
Right. So I'm not sure what you're suggesting be changed.
I suggest it just be deleted. By the way, the statute itself says that all these special exceptions, including the military and so on, the statute says may. There's no mandate there that the municipality has to do something. Okay?
If you're going to establish an ordinance requiring payment for beach badges, you have to comply with that section of the law.
No, excuse me. I have the statute here. If it uses the word may.
That's correct.
Okay?
But if you're going to offer a refund for the ability to go on the beach without paying, you have to follow the statute. And that's the language of the statute.
Correct.
So,
also the borough has to count how many passes were allowed under any exception.
yeah, there has to be an accounting.
That's correct.
That's correct.
And that's done.
And then-
Right. I guess the point I'm making here is that there's no, the borough has no mandate with this disability, with this section D here, or this price. The borough has no mandate in order to offer that.
So would it be your position then that that should be removed, and then anybody who's disabled would have to pay the full seasonal amount?
Correct.
Well, that's a decision, I'm sure the mayor and council can take it under advisement. They've decided, sounds to me like they've decided to give a lesser fee to disabled people. So I'm sure they understand your position.
Well, there's a couple of arguments that you can make with that sort of thing. But down by the beachfront, we have ADA parking spaces. And that's in fulfillment, meeting the requirements of the federal law, federal guidance, okay? But the borough does not offer any discount for a disabled parking space. In other words, there's no real reason to offer people with disabilities discounts. They're more than willing to pay, and it's more a matter of the courts have ruled in favor of accessibility. It's not a matter of cost, it's a matter of accessibility. You see what's going on in Deal right now, it's a matter of accessibility. Our town does probably more than any other municipality in the state, making our state, our boardwalk and our beach compliant with the Americans with Disability Act, including mobility mats, including ramps. The town has made quite an investment. This business here of so quite truthfully, I see this was probably passed in the 70s. Where people had either perhaps qualified bus loads of people that.
Mr. Kramer, instead of going on, we'll take a look at the statutes very closely, and we'll confer with the attorneys. I understand where you're going with it, but we felt that our disabled people should get a discount to go on the beach. So we'll take a look at the wording, and maybe we have to come back with this with a little bit of a wording change. But you know, instead of going back and forth with our attorneys, it's probably best that we'll take a look at it. If we think it has to be changed, we'll bring it back up to the council.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. I just
Thank
wanted.
you. Yeah, thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Okay.
Anybody else on this ordinance? All right, seeing none.
Motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
A motion to adopt ordinance 2019-2?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Councilwoman Vaughn? Yes. Councilman Brennan?
I have one question I've been asked several times. We approve it tonight, but there's a lag time and people can still get badges under the old price. How much time do they have?
Till March 1st.
Till March 1st. Okay, so tell her, yes.
Mayor Walsberg?
Yes.
Councilman McCracken?
Yes.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Next, we have first reading and introduction of ordinance 2019-3, ordinance amending and supplementing chapter 18 for beach locker fees. We have a motion to introduce this ordinance.
Make the motion.
Oh, we have to go to public hearing?
No, these are first, this is the first reading.
First reading,
Because we
okay.
had to revise it.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
One second. Okay, Councilman Wong? Councilman Brennan?
One of the things I like about this ordinance, turns out this is what place where we can actually give a residence discount on beach lockers. I was really happy to hear that. Finally, I'll vote yes.
Mayor Walsberg?
Yes.
Councilman McCracken?
Yes.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Next is first reading and introduction of ordinance 2019-4, ordinance amending and supplementing chapter 18 to prohibit smoking on borough beaches. Do you have a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, Councilwoman Long? Councilman Brennan?
I just want to make sure everybody understands that there's really no change to what we were already doing. It's just that we're more in line with the state statute that was just approved. So it's really nothing's gonna change. Yes.
Mayor Walsberg?
Yes.
Councilman McCracken?
Yes.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Next is ordinance 2019-5, ordinance establishing salaries for certain borough employees for 2019. We have a motion to introduce.
I'll make that motion.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay. Councilman Vaughn? Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Mayor Walsberg?
Yes.
Councilman McCracken?
Just a quick comment to advise the public that the ranges in these, in this ordinance have been adjusted to account for the new minimum wage laws that was signed into law by the governor. So vote yes.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Next is ordinance 2019-6, an ordinance creating the unclassified confidential position of Director of Special Operations. Do we have a motion to
I'll make
introduce?
that motion.
I'll second.
Councilman Vaughn?
Yes.
Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Mayor Walsberg?
Yes.
Councilman McCracken?
Yes.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Next, we need a motion to table ordinance 2019-7.
Oh, I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Councilman Vaughn? Councilman Brennan?
Yes.
Mayor Walsberg?
Yes.
Councilman McCracken?
Yes.
Councilman Carvelli?
Yes.
Do all your ordinances.
Okay, we'll move on to public session. Anybody that has anything to address the mayor and council? Come up, state your name and address.
Linda Sharkus, 404th Avenue. I was really saddened on Saturday when I drove down the street and I saw a property having all the trees cleared from their yard. They're building a new house, and I was wondering, isn't there an ordinance that precludes them from removing all the trees? To me, there's nothing left. One would think if we should have something requiring them to replace some of the trees, but if everybody who builds a new house does this, we're going to have a problem with the water table, which we all see it's happening. Trees take up water, which reduces the level of water. And, you know, it was disheartening to see that somebody comes into town and is really changing the character of what we have here.
I don't think we have any kind of an ordinance on our own properties, their own property to remove trees. I mean,
I thought that was part of the shade tree.
Were there trees on the curb line that were being taken out?
There were 10 trees that were taken off the property.
But on the curb line?
I
See,
doubt.
because that's, I think, yeah, you need approval to take them off the curb line, I think.
And that's it.
I believe so.
Okay, so those people that take them off the curb should be replacing trees?
So I don't know what the process is, maybe you can comment, but I know when my mom and dad built their house about 3 years ago, they had to get an okay to have them, to remove them, but then they also had to promise to put them back.
Okay,
Once the house was done.
I guess it would be important for we get somebody to look at enforcement of that, because many trees have been taken down and not replaced on the curb.
To follow up the councilman's, the curb line, the borough owns that area, usually 5 to 10 feet inside the curb. You know, it's part of the borough right of way.
Mhm.
So if someone were to be removing the trees from there, they're borough trees. So they would have to be replaced. Now, further inland on the person's own property, I don't think there's a way to handle that right now.
Well, I think when we do plans, we could ask people if they're taking that much greenery away, that we place it elsewhere. That's my recommendation for this. Thank you.
anyone else for public comment? Tom?
Tom Volker, 527 8th Avenue. Mayor, I know you probably know that one of our residents was attacked by a raccoon, Audrey, one of our seniors. Terrible, terrible attack. And I want to compliment the police who captured an animal that was rabid, responded pretty quickly once they knew she was injured. And I'm just wondering if, because I'm hearing more and more incidents like this, if we could use our public address system to let residents know that there are some animals that are not acting the way they normally would. Whether they're rabid or not, I don't know. I know the animals they caught were rabid. So that's what I'm asking, if you could use the public address system.
Yeah, I know we were gonna put out a code red, and then there was some confusion on whether it was caught right away, and then wasn't, and then by the time they were gonna put it out, the police department warned us that it was already captured.
And somebody's cat just got bit.
Today.
Oh, today?
There was an attack on a cat.
All right, so maybe we'll put something out.
We also captured that one as well.
Yeah, we'll let that, our business administrator will handle that.
Yeah, we ought to want people to take care of their own pets, make sure that if they've been vaccinated and keep them inside if at all possible.
Yeah, general warning even to the parents, you know, that any wild animal, you need to be real careful about approaching them.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Tom. Straight in the back there. Waiting patiently.
Thank you very much. John Walsh, 1101 Beach Street. I was up in the Borough Hall and I saw the red guy and I asked him about the Belmar Soul for the 5K they have every year. And he informed me they weren't having it this year. And I have no idea why they wouldn't have it because that money goes to recreation. Over the 3 years, it's been $22,000 at least that they collect. Now, it's not going to benefit me one bit, but I think that's $22,000 that the kids could use.
Yes, well, the whole issue is that, and the problem that we had so many road closures on Ocean Avenue over the summer. So right now, we're only going to have one. We're going to allow the firemen to have their 5-mile run. The rest of the road closures are not going to happen during the summer, so we're going to pick another date, whether it's going to be September, October, and all these events that close off Ocean Avenue in the summertime that create a lot of headaches for our residents are going to cease right now, and the only road closures that we're going to allow is the firemen have their 5-mile run. But so we can look at things in April, May, September, or October to do that when we don't have the influx of all the people coming down here and creating all the traffic problems. So
it's 1 hour. It's a 5K. The last finisher finished in 58 minutes. It starts at 8:30.
I totally understand, but the issue has been that it's almost like now every weekend. So we had to stop it, and we'll be looking at it in September and October. And I think they would be able to make the same amount of money in those months. I don't think that our residents have to be burdened with all these road closures every weekend.
I'm a resident too. It doesn't bother me. And the next thing was I missed the seafood festival. And can I still speak about that?
Sure.
Oh, well, I just felt that where it was, if it's not broke, don't fix it. You're bringing people into town. Now, I just came into town and the railroad crossing was down, and I was backed up to 35. Now, this is at 6 o'clock at night. You add the seafood festival, which will be right in town. These people are going to be backed up into Seagirt and Asbury Park. And I understand we want to bring people into our town, but what about the residents? We're not going to be able to get into the town. We're not going to be able to go to the store to get what we want. That seafood festival, that line is from you to the end of the thing. That's one side of the street. So I don't think that, I don't know if it's set in stone. I think they should rethink it. The way it was set up, if you got, I've worked some of these things. If you have an emergency, you could get it from 3 sides there. Here, that road, you're not going to be able to get down that road. I don't know where you're going to put the tables to sit. And the bathrooms, you had the bathrooms down there. You have the bathroom right there on 6th Avenue or whatever. Then you got the one on 8th Avenue. Then you got one, I think it's on 3rd or 4th. And then you had the porta potties. I just think it's a bad idea. It sounds good, we'll bring people into the town, for the merchants, but I just think they should rethink it. I think it's gonna turn out to be, I don't even want to say the word, but it's gonna, a real shit show. I'm saying the word, but that's what I feel. And that's all I got to say about that.
Thank you.
But thank you for listening about the solar.
Thanks, John.
Sorry.
How are you, pal? First of all, I'd like to applaud the new town council on a lot of the work that they've done, especially when it comes to...
Can you just give your name and address?
Oh, yeah, sure. My name is Cy Reitmeyer. I live on 405th Avenue in Belmont. The town administrator, hats off to you if you're responsible for the new, business office. It looks great, it looks clean. You can see people's faces. Everybody seems to be very happy with that. It was a positive step. I applaud the town council and bringing the beach back to where it was, and hopefully we'll have a great beach season. I do want to express the fact that while being a resident, I don't mind spending a couple extra bucks, but I think for the seniors to be doubled, I think is, I think it's too much for a senior. I mean, the whole theory behind giving a senior a break is presumably because they may have lived in town for 30 years, and for 30 years they paid, and I'm not a senior, so, the idea is that they presumably paid like beach badges for 30 years, and then all of a sudden, they gotta be doubled in what they're gonna spend. I think that's unfair to a senior. But, that's just, my idea. But the other thing is that, the last town council meeting that I came to, we talked about a $33 million debt that the town has. And there were a couple issues that came up. One was the water problem that's over on 35 up near, I don't know where the windmill is, I don't know what the street is, but, and there were some other issues that happened in the prior administration. And while I respect the fact that, the town council wants to move the town forward and not necessarily look back, I think that the town is entitled to some transparency when it comes to acts that weren't followed through that need to be looked at in terms of where the responsibility lied. I'm sorry I came late tonight because I was with an MRI with my aunt, but the fact that the 10th Avenue Pavilion, for example, we have to go and we have to put the money out for that, when in fact it was an engineering problem or a construction problem. What's going on 35 and some other issues. I understand that, the town wants to move forward with some of these things, but I think that we need to hold some people accountable for what may have happened in the past.
Well, that's what, you missed the workshop session, but I did talk about the 10th Avenue Pavilion. The water's pouring in there at every rainstorm, and the sheetrock's falling off, the fire alarm shot. What we need to do is we need to take some of that money and straighten it out right away. Then we're going to look at those issues and see who's responsible for that. But the main thing is we need that. If we went into litigation right now, the building would sit there for 3 years, and that doesn't help anybody.
Let's get it fixed, but let's start the litigation.
Well, that's what we're going to look at. Our engineers are looking into where the problems lied, and if there is a possibility of litigation on some of the design flaws or some of the building flaws on it, we are going to look into that. But the main focus right now, because we've only been here for 36 days, is getting that building up and running for this summer and making sure that it is in good shape to go forward, and then we're going to start to look at all those issues. But right now, when I talk about looking ahead, some of these issues have to be taken care of immediately. We can't just sit back and wait.
What about the 33 million? I mean, has anything been done?
We went out, and what we had to do is we had to roll it over for short-term notes, and we had a bond sale, so we got that. That gave us a little bit of a reprieve until our bond counsel could really start to take a look at sitting down and really putting some of these notes into place to pay down some of these bonds. So they are working on that. Our bond counsel is working on that now with our CFO, but we've straightened out the problems that we have for February 8th, where they were all due at once, so we have that in place.
All right, has the town looked into, like, reducing some of the operating expenses and ultimately, some of the payroll? It's my understanding, I don't know if it's for a fact, but I understand that, the Department of Public Works Director and the Police Chief, they're all entitled to like overtime. They're salaried employees, aren't they?
I wish.
Excuse me?
I wish.
Oh, that's what I mean, maybe that's why I'm asking the question.
That's one of the personnel issues that we really can't talk about.
Oh, no, because one of the things I heard was that,
we're looking at
they'll go out and snow and get paid for it when he's a salaried employee. That's just what I heard. I mean,
I can't comment on that because it's all personnel matters, so.
Basically what I'm saying is that, with a town that's in debt for $33 million, and it's the front page of the CoStar, that we need to reduce expenses, we need to reduce the payroll. I had just, last week, when they talked about the raccoon incident, I had a raccoon in front of my house, and when I pulled up to the house, there were 6 squad cars there, 6 police cars there for a raccoon. Now granted, the raccoon was the size of a dog, it was a big raccoon. But we had 6 police officers there with Glocks, and for like 45 minutes, we had 6 police cars there.
We enjoy good DPW and we enjoy good.
And then ultimately what
police
winds up
department.
happening is some girl comes in a van from the Monmouth County Animal Shelter with short sleeve shirts on, and in a minute the thing is gone. Do we need in the wintertime in Belmar, do we need to have 6 squad cars for a raccoon? I love this town. I've lived here for 22 years. I love the town. I think the town's going in the right direction. I think we have the right town council. But, we have to look at what we're doing in terms of spending, so we can, bring it back to reality, because it's just insanity sometimes what you see out there.
I talked about our new CFO, and she's carrying a big stick, so.
All right, well,
we'll take her lead.
I ultimately have the faith and confidence that you guys will deliver the town and put it back in the right direction. With
one bite at a time. We're working on
I
it.
appreciate your time.
Thanks,
Thank you very much.
Thanks for your comments. The young lady in the back.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Krista Sperber, 512.5 8th Avenue. So I have 2 questions, and I'm just going to go ahead and read through them, and then you can kind of get back and answer the parts that you can answer. As you may know, a report published by Union Concerned Scientists shows that by 2030, the area of Route 35 and K Street will experience chronic flooding with at least 5 homes at risk of frequent inundation. What steps have we taken to develop a plan and a timeline for Route 35 and mitigate tidal flooding from the K Street neighborhood? Second part. My second concern is around flood insurance affordability, and as subsidies are removed and our taxes and our rates are increased to reflect actual risk, this is going to price many of my neighbors out of their homes, as rates will increase from $600 per year to more than $4,000. The NFIP program provides a community rating system that incentivizes communities through policy premium discounts to go beyond the minimum floodplain management requirements. Our current rating of 6 gives us a 20% discount. The discount increases and 5% increases, capping at 45% with a community rating of 1. It's imperative that we work to improve our community rating to help keep flood insurance affordable. What projects are currently on our flood hazard mitigation plan? Who's working on it? And what community members are involved in the decision making?
Right now, our engineer has been talking to us about flood maps and flood mitigation, and he will be setting up a whole course of action towards that. But he has that on his radar, and so.
Do we have a timeline for that?
He's taking the lead on it, and we'll be working on it. But right now, we were in talks about it. I haven't got into really deep discussion because we have so many other issues that we're looking at. But that is on top one of his priorities to start working on that.
Mayor, if I could, we've already been talking to DEP, Rebecca Jones, to get our rating down. So we're in the process with our engineer to do so. So we've already started that process. get our rate down, to get the rates lower for our residents.
So what steps would we be taking to do that?
Well, we're meeting with our engineer, and there are certain steps that you have to take in order to raise that number down. That's what we're in the process of doing. We just started that. We've been in touch with the DEP already, so that's what we're working towards.
Okay, do we feel any sense of urgency on this?
Everything is urgent in this town right now. We have a sense of urgency for everything we're going through right now. So we're working, we've been here 36 days. We have answers to your questions, and we're trying to get through everything right now. But we have a sense of urgency in everything we do. If you've heard some of the problems that we're facing, we're trying to get through everything right now.
Okay, and what about Route 35? What contact has been made with the state to get that project rolling? We're talking about a state highway rebuilding. This is kind of significant.
Yeah, we've been in contact with DOT, and our engineers have been in contact. We have put on about 4 or 5 different engineering groups to take a look at that and to deal with DOT on that. So they are, I haven't got a report back from them of what happened with DOT, but they are instructed to work on that.
Okay, and when will we be following up with them to make sure it's moving forward?
We've been meeting with a lot of different engineering firms and talking about a lot of different things. I don't know where that is on their priority list right now, but we'll find out.
Okay, so I'll see you next month.
Okay. Yes.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nancy Koenig. I live at 303 C Street. And my question is the Lake Como outfall pipe, the $600,000 that we're responsible for. Is there any recourse for us to get, is there any recourse against the people that let this happen to us?
Well, I think this is a similar answer to one gentleman before. We're going to be looking into this very seriously. This only came up, today's Tuesday, I think late last week we first heard about this. Last Thursday, Friday or so, was when at least I received, when we received a letter from the Department, the Attorney General's office. So we're on it, believe me. The mayor and the council have said, and we're going, if there's someone who's going to be responsible to the borough for this, they'll be held accountable. We just need to get our arms around this a little more. I have a letter going out to the Attorney General's office, and as to trying to sit down with them about this, as well as the DEP person who was involved in this oversight, to try to find some culpability.
Okay, only because that's something that's over and done with. That's not like the 10th Avenue Pavilion, that yes, we have to put out some money to get it into operation. So that's something that we can pursue a little faster than the other, so it doesn't get in litigation and get held up.
Well, it is, we're in the process now of closing out the project.
Okay.
We need the engineer to do that, and at that point, then we can sit down with the DEP again to go over how much they're going to reimburse us, because we've laid out a lot of this money. But I know that the council and the mayor want us to find out how this happened and who's responsible for it, and that's what we're doing.
And especially for who approved change of work orders.
Understood.
Okay, thank you.
We're on it, and we'll get back to you about it.
Okay. I'll be here next month too.
Yes, we'll come back.
Hi, Steve Lemoyne, 403 C Street. Quick question about the building going up on 10th Avenue. Right, I noticed when I went by there, they have a new sign out front, 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. Is that building part of the pilot program?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so I'm assuming that when they have 2 bedrooms, that will probably have some school-age children there. As part of the redevelopment agreement with the developer and the owner, are they paying any money to the school district?
I don't know the particular agreement you're talking about that was pre-us. I can always guarantee the answer is no. They're not paying a special assessment to the school board. But they're paying whatever the pilot agreement provides, which was apparently agreed to at least a year or 2 ago if they're building it now.
So any children that go there and wind up going to the Belmar Elementary School and high schools, that expense is borne then by the rest of the citizens here in town?
Yes.
I would hope that the pilot agreement provides that a portion, or a small portion, will go to the Board of Education, but not nearly enough to compensate for the cost of the child,
Okay, right, so,
in my opinion.
okay, so the taxpayer takes it on the chin.
Anyone else? Mr. Kramer?
I'm getting better at this. Shane Kramer, 4th Avenue. I want to comment about, there's been a couple of comments here tonight about animal control. Back in 2017, the borough rescinded its regulation of cats. In light of the case of rabies here in town, I think it might be a good idea to bring back the regulation of cats in town, which include the licensing, tags, and shots for rabies. Also, I did notice and checked with Lake Como, they still regulate cats, so that there shouldn't be, at least as far as animal control is concerned, there shouldn't be a differentiation between our town and theirs. So if that's possible, I would say bring back the regulation of cats.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right, seeing none. April?
Motion to close the public session and adjourn the meeting.
Make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.